everybody. Good morning, everybody. Please stand if you're able. Remove your head coverings if you're a man for the recital of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malkuto, Leolam Vaed, Vehavta et Yahweh Elohecha, Bekol lavavka, uvekol nafsheka, uvekol meodeka, vehayu hadvarim haele, asher anoki mitzvaka, hayoma levaveka, veshenintam levaneka, vedibarta bam, beshtivika beveteka, Uvleteka vaderek, ukshachbeka uvkumeka, ukshartam leot al yedeka, vehayu letotafot, beineineka, uktavtam, al muzot beteka, vuvishareka. Amen. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is Elohim, Yahweh is one. You are to love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your might, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as reminders on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. Amen.
You go ahead. I'll
It's good.
All right, welcome everybody.
Thanks, William.
Yeah. I think this seat is wet, the deepest part. See if it pushes that way. I'm going to try a second side. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Trying to not have wet shorts.
Oh, dude. Should have went before coming out here, you know?
I didn't have to until like the pressure mounted.
I get stage
You
fright.
get halfway into the Shema, and that's when you're like, man, I gotta pee.
Yeah. I'll be sitting like down in a hole here, but that's okay. No, it's fine. General announcements. Thanksgiving this week. People traveling. We'll see. We'll take a survey for next weekend to kind of see what everybody's up to, if people are out and about. So stand by on what happens there.
We will not be around. I don't know how to update the calendar for when the families are out of town, but we will not be.
Do you have a wilderness email?
We do, and I've tried, but I just can't get it to work.
If you show me your phone, I'll show you at some point if you would like. That'd be helpful for us.
Yeah.
The Sharps have your family's in town. Yes. The whole family.
Yeah, so traditionally, it tends to be pretty slim, and we tend to not have service next week, but I'm holding off officially making that statement. That's why I say we'll kind of check and see later in the week, but that's really the only thing kind of on radar for the short upcoming, I think.
And no
Shabbat.
Yeah, and there won't be an Arab Shabbat next Friday night proper. So if something unofficial surfaces, then we can kind of address that at that point. I think if there was anything else. That might be all that's kind of on the forefront of my mind. Before we get going, I want to walk you through just something to consider. So, Thanksgiving was really ginormous. It wrapped the gym, came around, and then actually wrapped back on itself, and then kept filling. That was pretty fantastic. A lot of people were just genuinely happy to be there. Enjoyed themselves. Food was good. The service was good. It's absolutely fantastic. So I just want to go to early that Wednesday morning. So we're going to use Brian as the example. Wakes up, big day ahead of him, big event, a lot of things to do, a lot of details to make sure are getting kind of wrapped up and just kind of taking care of things as they go. I think I ran into you actually, you were transitioning, so just a lot of activity. You just kind of seeing that, everything that's happening there, get through the day, get through the event, it's fantastic. Another young man woke up that day, got ready for work, went to work, did his job, just serving the students similar to how everybody served InterVarsity. Or were there two heads? Were there two guys? Yeah. So two young men get up, going about their day, getting ready for work, go to work, do their job serving people, conclude their work on their way home, and have their lives taken, not because they were involved in anything, it was mistaken identity. And I just think of those guys as they got up that day, went and just were living their normal everything, not knowing that within a 12-hour period, they would encounter what they encountered. It just kind of has me thinking about how we take for granted absolutely everything. And then we sit around and we spiritualize and we make it look like we're incredibly grateful, and yet we still manage to hold on to judgments and unforgiveness. So I would call you out to the floor if you were to assume that you're operating at the level of gratitude that we should really be living in. We have a bunch of stuff. We have a bunch of things. We have plenty of food. We have all the things. Oh, I'm very grateful. And sure, we are. But just being grateful for life, period. I don't know why we have such a hard time getting just to that level. Hey, just picture these guys on their shift, not having a clue that this was going to be the end. I don't know, it just has me thinking of what areas in my life am I just like, oh, really? It's dry, I have a hangnail again. Oh, it's like so dry. Can't believe it. The little irritations that I absorb and just walk in, and it's embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. So, just think about those guys. Tragedy that their family has to endure. Just the carelessness of ignorance and misplaced identity and thinking that you're big and bad and untouchable, and we can sit and look at somebody that did something like that, but in what areas are we doing the same thing? So, for what it's worth.
Just to add on to that, I experienced the same thing when my mom died. Our last conversation was us fighting over who was the owner of the Google family group, because they were on my dad's plan, and she wanted to put them on her and her fiance's plan. There could only be one head of a Google family group, so we got to fight over it. Then a week later, 2 weeks later, she's gone. I'm out grocery shopping, blah blah blah. Frustrated in the grocery store, and then I get a call you need to drive up to Albuquerque right now. Your mom's lost. I have time. We can deal with this later. I'll apologize for the way I acted later. Sometimes later doesn't come. I think it's the importance of why Abba says, if you're bringing a sacrifice and you have something against your brother, leave your sacrifice right now and go first be reconciled to them, because that reconciliation is so important. Because the time may be up, and then you don't have the opportunity to.
And I think we all know this, on a cerebral level. Oh, sure, we can walk through and agree fully that that's true. But whether we take it, just the littlest things that could have shifted so much, and yeah.
We live in unprecedented times. Pretty much all the way up until not even that long ago, violence was the normal and peace was very rare. There could just be violence at any turn in anything. Not even in this town not too long ago. It had been burned down before.
Collins would always remind us, each morning, he's like, every morning, you get up and you blame your alarm clock for waking you up. He's like, but it's not the alarm clock, it's the grace of God that you wake up each and every day. And I'll admit, even I lose sight of that. I wanted to launch my phone across the room when an alarm went off this week, instead of waking up a place of thankfulness. Because it is so easy to slip right back into the self-centric universe. I find it all the time. I'm planning for next week. I'm planning for next spring, and yet tomorrow isn't even promised. You guys buy a car. Walked away.
2018, I had an experience too. It's there's these moments that aren't fully lasting, because then my judgments and selfishness pops up. In 2018, I was the longboard crash. That was really scary for me, and I had the moment where my life flashed before my eyes, and this is before my kids were born or anything. So I was just thinking I would leave my wife. She'd probably find another husband. I'd be gone. But just a lot of future ideas. I'm the firstborn and only born in my family, so my family line would be cut off because of this one decision. I just think it's interesting that our bodies are very resilient with the organs that are inside there, placed by God for all the crap that we put in, but then they're so fragile on the exterior. And it's a grace that we have, the organs to filter out the garbage we put in.
also a reminder that life can be taken away in an instant. And I think it's, yeah, like you're saying, Billy, cerebral. Like the experience of almost having experienced death lasted for about a year. Of like taking my life seriously, taking life in general around me seriously, and then the judgments just wipe that away. It's frustrating.
So, sorry, I'm gonna bet in too. So for me, I've had 4 miscarriages and 3 since June, and my last one was last week. And I think I've been thinking about life a lot too lately because, I think I have a lot of time. We all think we have a lot of time on Earth, but truly our days are numbered. I know so many people my age who aren't with us anymore. But then there's these babies, and I can count the number of days on my hands of how long they got to be alive, and how I'm not grateful, and I don't even care to count how many days I've had, but they had few, and just how important it is. And I don't know, I'm here to chime in that I also have been thinking about that.
It's easy to feel sorry for people when it's somebody else. But when you get touched directly, it just there's a different thing Dry is talking about. You hear about this stuff all the time, and you become so numb to it because you're like, oh yeah, that just happens.
People die.
Yeah.
This segues pretty well into what I was wrestling with the Lord about over the Torah portion this week. Because he gets going into the duties of the tribe of Levi. And like you have Aaron who gets adorned in these incredible garments, and he goes in to see the Creator once a year. You have his 2 sons also adorned, one of them set to take his father's place, who operate, right? They operate in the house. Maybe not in the room, but they operate in the house where the Creator is. But then you have these other Levites, and it's like, oh no, you're definitely important, and you have a job to do, except it's not that job. And I found myself, like, the Lord convicted me fairly aggressively this week of, like, being in that spot, having a calling and a job to do, and complaining because it wasn't what someone else was doing. And yet, if you don't have somebody to clean the ashes out of the altar, the priest, there cannot be a sacrifice of blood, and therefore the whole thing stops. It all grinds to a gear because a cousin doesn't feel like cleaning out the ashes. It all grinds to a stop because, right, we see in the time of David that he puts the ark, when they get it back from the Philistines, into someone's home, and that man's son dies because it wasn't carried properly. So you have these guys, we later see with Korah, whose job is to cover them, these holy articles, in this cloth, and yet Korah decides that's not enough. And so for him, the life that he's been given, the calling that is on his life, isn't good enough. He wants something else that he's not called to do. And you're told you only have until tonight, and that's it. You're not suddenly going to look at the everything you could do, but it's the everything you did. Yeah, I had my mail read this week on Central in between Eubank and Zuni. So, yeah, that was great.
Yeah, so with that, do we have a quick summary?
Yeah. Numbers 1:1 through 4:20. Quick recap of last week. Leviticus, the last two chapters. About Abba's blessings for obedience to his commands and curses for disobedience, for not observing his commands. Yahweh speaks also to Moses to speak to Israel about vows dedicating things to Abba, and about the redeemability prices of people, animals, homes, and land with their values being laid out. So this Torah is Numbers 1:1 through 4:20. Abba speaking to Moses in the tent of meeting in the second year of Israel being out from Egypt. About Moses and one son from each tribe to take a census of every man in Israel that was 20 years old and older to serve in Israel's army, with the amount from each tribe listed out. 603,550 total fighting men. The Levites are not to be counted here, for they take care of the tabernacle of the covenant law. Chapter 2, north, south, east, west placement of the tribes is listed, and Israel did everything that Moses commanded for the way they are supposed to be settled and the way they set out. Chapter 3, listing the sons of Aaron that are the anointed priests, acknowledging Nadab and Abihu died before Yahweh when offering unauthorized fire, and they had no children. Levites are to take care of the tabernacle itself. All firstborns are dedicated to Yahweh, and listing the sons of Levi by fathers' houses to total 22,000. Census of the sons of Kohath is taken, and they're charged with the tearing down process of moving the tabernacle when settling out, and how to move each individual piece to be carried by the sons of Kohath. The prophets, Hosea 2. Abba's judgment on Israel for prostitution before Baals, resulting in Yahweh taking grain, wine, and oil away from the Moedim, and his Moedim being stopped, with the promise of restoration of those vineyards and returning back to the first husband. New Testament, Luke 16 and 17, parable of the lying financial manager with the famous line, the one who is faithful in little is also faithful in much, and the one who is dishonest in little is also dishonest in much. Yeshua addressing adultery, the rich man who was sent to Hades, and the poor man named Lazarus, who is carried by angels to Abraham's side. Yeshua warning the disciples about the tempting even a little one to sin is worse than a millstone around the neck. Having faith like a mustard seed and uprooting a mulberry tree, and lastly, treating servants well. 1 Corinthians 12 through 31 is about the body and how its parts function together as one.
All right. Kicking off the boring stuff, right? Really? We need to know how many people. Any questions, comments, observations, concerns?
Good.
You go, because I'm gonna rant.
So this is chapter 4, 17 through 20. Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "Let not the tribe of the clans of the Kohathites be destroyed from among the Levites." When we fast forward to verse 20, it says, "But they shall not go in to look on the holy things, even for a moment, lest they die." So I think it's interesting that 18 has a desire from Abba for them not to die, but it still says, "Lest they die if they do the thing that they're not supposed to." So I was just thinking of this week, and I don't want to do the thing where it's like, oh, like if they would have made one different decision, this would have happened. That's frustrating, and I hate the what if questions. They're not helpful. Sorry. I just think it's interesting that His will is for life, yet we can easily, for a moment, says, "Look on the holy things for a moment, lest they die." Like, you can just destroy yourself instantly. So I guess just pay attention to what you're doing. That's pretty much it.
So all of this gets completely thrown away the minute that Solomon builds the temple. Like there are entire... This was another thing. This was after Zuni and before Louisiana. Like, the rest of the Levites are given jobs. And all of those jobs have to do with the upkeep and the moving of the tabernacle. So then later in the time of Solomon, the movable tabernacle goes away, and suddenly we have a stationary place where we're not having to take it down and pick it back up every single time. So like, thanks, we don't need you anymore. Go away. Like, they're still Levites. what happens to all of these families that had a job that then didn't?
A lot of them be. I don't know proportion wise, but Levites were assigned to be gatekeepers and musicians in the temple.
Wasn't there also a pretty big dispersion of the Levites throughout the land when they were finally out there? 'Cause there were multiple cities of refuge, if I remember correctly.
Eventually, but were they supposed to disperse?
I mean, you could always go to the end of this question: what happens to the Levites after the temple's destroyed? With Hebrews.
Yeah. And this is like it's odd that they had this and then they didn't. Thanks. And also, I know like bragging isn't going to be a thing in the New Kingdom. Like when we're all sitting around telling stories, I really want to be there to hear some like Zechariah era priest tell some story, just to hear Phineas be like, I couldn't leave the tabernacle for 2 months straight. Like, there were only 3 of us. You had companies and you're complaining? I just want to be there and like getting coffee. I complain like the new guy does. And they didn't have rotations.
Back in 90.
Yeah, 365. Like, if one of them got sick, the other ones they were already doing overtime. If one got sick, they had to keep going.
Right, swallowed up by the ground.
I had a question about the census in general. It says it's in the second year of them being out from Egypt. Is there a reason why it's a year later as opposed to like right away?
Tabernacle just went up,
Yeah.
so now they're open for business, if you will. I mean,
The first few chapters of Numbers take place over a few weeks. The last 30 or so chapters of Numbers take place over 40 years.
And then I had another logistical question about the age cutoff for Kohath in chapter 4. It says 30 to 50 years old. And then for the fighting men, it just says over 20. So is there an old age cutoff for the fighting men?
At that time, I'm going to go with no. Because here, plus 40-ish years, Caleb whoops up on some giants for the fun of it. So, I look for that too. And no, it just seems like if they're crippled.
yeah, because Caleb's like, I feel like I'm in my youth.
He was at least 60.
Yeah, he's still in his youth.
Yeah, absolutely at least. So, it wasn't really an old age. It was, if you can swing a sword, you're welcome.
I think it's also a testament to his age. Because he still said, I want that mountain with all the giants on it, but y'all were too scared to take the first one. This old guy, I got a sword to sell.
I mean, we see Abraham whooping up on some people in his 80s. So,
Saves
nephew, son, however you want to skin that sheep.
Just so you guys know, I have a ton of questions, so please talk before I do.
I also love the comparison of this census versus the census that David takes.
What's the difference?
Yahweh spoke to Moses versus David said. Like in this one, Yahweh has the people numbered with the exception of Levi because they're his, and so they are numbered for his glory, whereas David is numbering for his own. And that's why we see the plague break out in Israel.
Because he was mostly numbering the people who could fight, right?
Yeah. Gotta have good favor in the polls, man.
So in chapter 3 it says, these are the generations of Aaron and Moses at the time when Yahweh spoke with Moses at Mount Sinai. These are the names of the sons of Aaron. So, and then it lists the sons of only Aaron. It doesn't mention anything about Moses and his sons. I was just confused by that. Like it says, these are the generations of Aaron and Moses. And you just only list Aaron.
We don't really see Moses' son after circumcision, right? Zipporah circumcises him.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever mentioned it.
Later on, my friend Mike actually brought this up when we were studying it a couple years ago. The verse where it says that Moses took an Ethiopian or a Moabite.
Moabite.
Takes a Moabite as a wife.
No, an Ethiopian.
Is it? It's not Zipporah. So it's just very interesting that like he has his family in Midian. Jethro brings her back at the beginning, and we hear nothing else about Moses' line pretty much ever again.
You get people claiming to be sons of Aaron all over the place.
If anybody comes in and they're like, "Yeah, I'm the son of Moses," we're like,
We didn't even hear about the one right after.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then in 3:7, when it says, "They shall keep guard," being the tribe of Levi, guard over Aaron and the congregation. Is that the same type of guard from the Aaronic blessing?
Like keep,
Yeah.
the keep guard.
Which verse was that?
Chapter 3, verse 7. Websites. Just thought it was interesting that they put guard in there.
Yep. It is.
So they are to not necessarily protect, but they are to do their duties so that Aaron can do his. They are to guard his time, his schedule, his calendar, so that he can do what the Lord commands. Those ashes still have to get shoveled out. The blood still has to get mopped up.
Bury the timbers of the tabernacle.
I thought it was pretty cool teamwork, and also like a parallel with 1 Corinthians, the New Testament portion, 12 through 31 about the body, and it working together with its individual parts. Yeah, the Levites are to help with communion between Abba and people so that they're not destroyed. So there's a preservation of life. And then the army is to help with keeping out people from Israel so that they are not destroyed. Specific people that are trying to kill. So preservation of life. And then just seeing how those two work together for all preservation of life.
That takes me to the question I had about the Kohathites. Specifically 17, chapter 4, 17. Like, not to let the families of the tribe or the Kohathites be cut off from among the Levites, do this for them so they may live and not die. Whenever they approach the most holy items, Aaron and his sons are to go into the sanctuary and assign each man his job and his responsibility, but the Kohathites are not to go in to look at what is holy, not even momentarily, or they will die. Is that referring to like the holiest of holies, or is it referring to the items in the tabernacle?
It's the items.
Yeah, so not even looking at them. It's crazy.
That's why they need to be wrapped up too.
Yeah.
Kind of a very Noah-like situation, walking backwards with your blanket.
Wait, are they? I thought they're only wrapped up when they're heading out.
Yeah, but they have to be wrapped up before the Kohathites go in because they can't look at the holy items or they'll die.
Yeah, like
So is it like you hold the sheet right in front and then you're like just looking at the sheet?
So it says that Aaron and his sons are to take the curtain off the holy place and walk it in and lay it across, like lay it on top of the mercy seat. Then is it next they jump to goat skin? Porpoise hide, then a cloth of solid blue, and then put the holes in. Then they have to take these same blue cloths and lay them over all the rest of the
They wrap it
holes.
multiple times. So I just had never really caught. I think we pretty easily are like, oh yeah, holiest of holies, you can't go in there, you die. But to the Kohathites who aren't priests, even entering and looking at the utensils that are holy would kill. I had never caught that before. I think that over the last few weeks, just talking about the weight of Abba's holiness and not treating him common. I've been trying to put that in place just with like praying and all these other things, like stopping what I'm doing and be like, no, if I'm going to be praying right now, I'm purposing to not be distracted. I'm purposing to treat you as holy as the most important. This kind of really stuck out to me. Like, I think it just reinforces that idea. Like, well, yes, the access through Jesus has been placed there. The weight of what he did so that we could enter is just reinforced for me here. Like, even looking at the utensils.
Yeah, it's like the fact that you can enter is the thing that changed. His holiness did not.
Like once again with Uzziah, like he had to die because he grabbed the ark. There wasn't a whoops, you didn't know. And in this one, like the command isn't to the Kohathites of keep yourselves holy. It is to Aaron. You screw up, you get sloppy, they have to die. Like the word there is karat, and it is the same thing we read through all of Leviticus of whoever does this will be cut off, whoever does this will be cut off. These guys can be cut off, sentenced to death, immediate death, while doing their job because someone else screwed up. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind the next time I complain about someone not doing their job.
My life isn't a balance.
At least I'm not dying.
I had a firstborn question in chapter 3. So, this is 12 through 13. It says, Behold, I have taken the Levites from among the people of Israel instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the people of Israel. And then it goes on to say, Levites shall be mine, for all firstborn are mine. So, is that all firstborn? Yeah, I just always thought all firstborn were dedicated, not just Levites. Is it like both and? Or is it a not replacement, but yeah, is it a substitute?
What was that first one?
3, 12 through 13. Yeah. It says, Behold, I've taken, and it's the translation from the one that is on 119 Ministries. Behold, I've taken the Levites from among the people of Israel instead of every firstborn who opens the womb. So it sounds like it's a replacement, but then it just says, for all firstborn are mine. I don't know what's what. I'm just erring on the side of all firstborn are dedicated.
So the firstborn do belong to him, period. The Levites. So what was supposed to happen? The firstborn of a family was to essentially be the priest of the family. This is
Reuben supposed to be the priest?
he was supposed to initially out of the gate, and then he surrenders it. And then Simeon, him and Levi, they end up using Abba's commands in order to, or the sign of the covenant to actually bring death onto people. So they kind of lost their position properly. So then the scepter was passed to Judah.
There wasn't Jacob curses them. Like he removes it from them because of that. There's no kind of it is. He's like, you're done.
Yeah.
He hands it then to Judah.
So the scepter gets handed to Judah. And what you end up seeing is, from a family perspective, which is why there was the call on the firstborn in Egypt. It wasn't on the children of Levi, or they all have to put the sign around the door. It was the firstborn. Because these are the ones that have been tasked within a family to serve as the priest, to watch over. And you just look at a family dynamic, just period. Generally, a firstborn runs in that intercessory mode with all the other siblings. They tend to run as a intermediary almost, where the children of the house look to the oldest as almost like a parent, and the parents look down at the firstborn as a child. So they're running in that intercessory type mode. And usually if little kids get in trouble, the oldest is held responsible if a situation shows up. I mean, it's just how the dynamic tends to play.
Paints a perfect picture of the Messiah, by the way.
So this was how it's supposed to be. Abba saved them all, because remember, not all of Egypt, or not all of Israel, was under the threat of death in Egypt as they were leaving. It was the firstborn. This is the one. All the other kids in the house get to live if the paint wasn't there or the blood wasn't there. So it's the firstborn that had their life in the balance. So they came out, they were supposed to be the ones that then took on that role of intercessor, of being that intermediary and watching over their family. And because kind of just numerically speaking, the oldest has been around longer. So not that always translates cleanly, but whatever. And then the whole deal with the golden calf was the time where all the firstborn were supposed to rise up and bring correction to their homes. Only the Levites stood. So that mantle was then passed to the Levites from a priestly perspective. So what did inherently belong in every tribe, in every home, was now transferred over to the Levites, who said, "We will stand." Which, the great irony in this is, Levi was one of the ones with Simeon who used the sign of the covenant to kill the men of Shechem. And now here he is, still loses his inheritance. Simeon just gets absorbed into Judah. Just gone. Because of them standing at the base of the mountain that day, Levi still lost. They had no inheritance. They had no land that would be called their own. But they were given stewardship of the very covenant that they used to bring death. That is epically ginormous. If anybody, Levi and Simeon should have been the two that shouldn't have touched the tabernacle with a 10-foot pole. Pun intended. And here they are now. Now they still, true to form, they don't have their inheritance. Right? They don't have a land that they can call their own. Their entire existence is dependent upon all their brothers, all the other tribes. Everything. They were fully dependent on everybody else. This is fascinating to me. So now we have this kind of weirdness of, you have the firstborn who has like a natural disposition to run in that intercessory mode, but have lost their true call. So, I mean, if you think about it, how the Levites were supported, everything, so on and so forth, the firstborn in a family didn't belong to the family, belonged to Abba himself. So this person, very similar to like Samuel, their life was initially by design to be working in this priestly context where all the others are there in support of them. They can go out, they can do other jobs, they can find other careers, they can do these types of things, and they would support the oldest in the family. Is how, just if we're, now this is never really written out explicitly, but based on how things go, we can only assume.
The firstborn would operate under the rules that Levi operates on.
Yeah, they 100%.
Well, it's interesting seeing not necessarily the replacement, but the redemption. I guess redemption's probably the better word here. One, you have the redemption of Levi, who, like you pointed out, uses the covenant to then kill, but then he gets himself back in the covenant by still being willing to kill. His descendants are required to kill everyone who worship the golden calf.
The ones who come against covenant.
And then we see there's a lot of discussion now in Christian circles about like replacement theology, right? We've seen anti-Semitism jump from almost nothing to everywhere within the last calendar year, and it is insane because in Christian circles they're justifying it, saying basically, well, they killed Christ and he's now replaced Israel with the church. I'm not looking at that backwards. But it's, when you look at this model, like, you're never supposed to be replaced, you're supposed to be redeemed. We aren't supposed to replace Israel, we are supposed to redeem.
So, in case in point, the firstborn, just because the priesthood was transferred to the Levites, doesn't mean they were kicked out of the covenant.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they no longer have any involvement. They're gone. You know, now it's this new people who are rising up and going to take over the earth, and you're like, where on earth does it say that all the firstborn were destroyed as a result? And negated from having access into the covenant? It just doesn't exist.
There's still the covenant, I mean, that we see Judah operate under, of the firstborn. There's a privilege and a responsibility that comes of, like you said, the responsibility is
of kingship,
that
leadership,
that intercessory piece. But it's also when your parents get old, it's the firstborn that has the responsibility to stand up. So there's the double portion of inheritance. But once again, it's not about the money, it's not about them, it's because they have a double layer of responsibility that the other siblings don't have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's, you were mentioning, I was about to mention that too, that there's the support of the other siblings, but then there's the double inheritance to the firstborn to also support. I think it's just like working together. Like Romans, all things work together for his glory.
Because we see, like, the firstborn of firstborns are responsible for, I mean, that's all of chapter 2 is them laying out the where to go, who to do, who's the banner. Like, they have to choose the heads of each tribe, the firstborn of each tribe, to take that position. I don't know if y'all have ever led, like, large groups of people. I feel for these people in a way that not many people can. 54,000 people.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah, it's like there's still a responsibility there, and it compounds all the way up until, you know, you're one of the top 12 responsible for. I mean, at this right, the top 12 are responsible for 11 of them circling around the high priest full judgment. I mean, they are the Supreme Court, second only to the Father for all of Israel. It's a lot of responsibility. They're not getting paid. It's just what the Lord has told them to do. He provides for them, but it's a lot of work.
When I was like Korah, it seems like a lot of people love the idea of being the supreme leader. I want to be the one to kind of bring the masses into whatever.
If it were up to me.
But if you actually understand leadership, you don't want it. You don't want it at all. And I remember, it's been a good while back, I was reading, I think it might have been John Maxwell, leadership guy. He made a comment that's really stuck with me, and I've observed it for probably the last 25 years or so. And what he said was, the thing is, 95% of what leaders do, anybody can do. Anybody. But it's that last 5%. That's basically what they pay you for. Is the difficult decisions, the hard conversations, the things that nobody wants to do. You want to be in charge of organizing everything and setting it up and doing all this to the crowd, and they're all, oh yeah, we love that. That inflates us like nobody's business. But true leadership is absurdly difficult because you have to engage in very difficult situations. You have to make very difficult decisions. And you're having to watch out for things that are sneaking on the back end. You're never really at risk from a everything is okay perspective. Oh, whew, all right, let's relax. Doesn't exist. There's always something that's trying to come. There's always a Korah. Something is always looking for that inroad, looking for excuses and reasons why that leader needs to fall, namely you. And it's coming for you. It's coming for you continually. So
The time. You literally don't get a break. You do one thing good, and it's, well, that wasn't good enough. You could have done it better. You could hand somebody a gold brick, and they will complain about the weight and the conversion, like the currency conversion. In that position, you cannot win by man's standards.
you can't. And I was even talking to this with some students in class the other day. I said, here's the thing, because some of them were like, I really like how this class is set up. Usually people hate how my class is set up. But I'm not there. My job is to prepare them for the next phase that they need to enter into. It's not to make their life easy during this season. It's not to comply with their laziness. No, we have a set window of time for you to go from not knowing anything to knowing enough to work over here. We have stuff to do, and I need to push it. I'm not here to be your friend.
The point of a 100 level class is to get you ready for the 200 level class, of which you're also it's not like, oh yeah, I need to get you ready for the mid-semester point of the 200 level class. They need to get you ready for day one.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. And then, with the advent of the internet, you can be basically a digital leader where you can dictate policy on all these fronts and get it to trend and influence and all the words, right? Without ever once having to be held responsible for anything you say or do. None. You spin it, people run, you get followers, you feel great, you get all the upside. The 95% element of that leadership thing, you're just all over it. And you never have to engage with the hard part.
I feel like that's essentially the part of that I appreciate the most about this is like we're actually interacting with each other. Most of the time it's from the pulpit, someone teaching without being challenged ever. They just say the thing and then they're off the stage. It's like, we talked about that a little more? No. You got 30 minutes and you did your preaching, and that's 95% of it. And then 5% of the people that are like, actually, we need to discuss this more. Small group leaders get it in the face because they're like, okay, now go into the discussion groups, and everyone's like, that was horrible. We need to talk about this. That was heresy. And like all these other things.
That was the worst interpretation of scripture I have ever heard uttered.
But no, see, to answer that point though, that's not what happens. No, nobody's mature enough to be like, okay, Abba has me here. This is where I am, so I'm gonna tough it out, and I'm gonna be obedient. Like we were talking about the past several weeks, people run. That's easier. I need to go find me a group of people that affirm everything that I think, and as soon as I find a flaw there, I'll run somewhere else. And I'm just gonna keep jumping all over the land, building my self-righteousness to an incredibly high level because everybody else is stupid and ignorant, and I am the enlightened one. And now you're operating in some dangerous territory. So I think it's more, if Abba says this is where you're supposed to be, that's where you're supposed to be. If it's sitting in the midst of 10,000 people, ask why. What am I doing here? What's my role here? Why do you have me in this place? And then you push diligently into that. Not look for a reason to tap out.
You're really convicting me in my dragging my feet to go to basic leadership course, Billy.
Good! Yes! We got the win for the day.
I really don't want to go.
Well, nobody does. No, and that's the thing. Nobody wants... you're funny. Nobody wants to have to deal with the hard part. We want all the accolades and the privilege and beauty that comes with having that title or position or influence or whatever the case may be. Getting there and living at that level, doing what it's calling you into, that is very hard. Very hard. And we don't want to do that. So you live in this tension of, oh.
Reminds me of my favorite scene from Gladiator. Would you do me this great honor? With all my heart, no. Because once you've been in a position to lead and do those things, then you understand the cost. And the movie, obviously, you can say, like, this idiot, his family, blah, blah, blah. It makes for a compelling story until it's your family on the chopping block. Can't go to this class, well, now I have to leave my kids and my wife behind, and who's going to help take care of them, and blah, blah, blah. There's the real consequences start to hit you in the face a lot sooner than you think.
Or a deployment.
Yeah. Or you're getting deployed and leaving your wife and your kids behind, right? Like cancer. So it's easy until you actually have to do it. I'll step in and do this thing because Daryl left, and there needs to be somebody who's in project management. This sucks. I have a lot more respect for all the work that Daryl put in to make things run now that I see behind the curtain.
But therein lies the actual value in what it is you're doing. Because sitting on the bottom end, we can judge all day long. Why don't they do this? Or why don't they do that? Psh, really? Well, I can't believe they... Until you're sitting in that seat of being like, oh.
I share an office with my boss. Sometimes he has to have like really hard things, conversations, or things to do, or like disciplinary actions. How do you do it? He's like, I do it because I have to, and I like that they pay me.
But I mean, things they do have to be done, and that's the difference. You can get people who are not leaders that occupy leadership position, and inevitably what will end up happening if they don't take ownership of the hard stuff, that organization will be full of backbiting people, full of complainers, people who are self-entitled,
Led by committee.
We're going to bully our way over, and you're like, it ends up imploding after a while. In a church, you'll get Somebody singing?
Yeah. Singing and walking. Go over there on School of Mine, too.
I thought it was somebody singing.
Literally wrote this last night. I think it's interesting that we're talking about this. Whoever the leader, a song. That's just a lyric from it. Whoever the leader, instead of opinions, concede your entitlement, get back to praying. Like, it's frustrating. That we think in internet culture it's okay to do that. Where it's just like people finally in those positions that as soon as we get the one that we want, we immediately go to criticizing too, even if it's the one that we thought was the one that we wanted. And dry experiencing, like, this actually sucks. And then once you actually experience it, you have the respect of that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should change how you view absolutely everything. Now your little high and mighty whatever should start to get tabled a little bit because you're like, maybe, just maybe there's something going on that I'm not quite up to speed on. Maybe they're having to do some really hard things that there's no chance I would ever want to do. Like having hard conversations with people. It's not fun. It's not pleasant to be able to sit and say, hey, I think you're kind of losing your way here.
It's hard to hold the line, but then also not put the stress of those things on your people. Right? One of the things Daryl always told me is like, praise goes down and complaints go up kind of thing. So, denying people their raises or their like promotions because you don't have the money to do so doesn't necessarily mean you can go complain to them about how we have no money and blah blah blah. You just have to make the hard decision and then continue on.
Yeah.
Ever since like Charlie Kirk died, I've had so many conversations with different students that just come up to me and ask for an opinion about whatever.
That's all people want are your opinions.
And I'm like, dude, pray.
Yeah.
Pray. Stop. Pray.
Yeah, we're firmly in the doing what is right in your own eyes territory. And I think what you're hitting on is exactly what Billy was talking about earlier. People are just looking for validation. And as soon as your opinion doesn't align with them, you're like, well, I disagree.
And then they'll find somebody that will align with, and then they'll create their little subculture that we all sit around and affirm one another, and then clearly we all have to be right. And you're like, you self-selected the yes men. How does that work? How does that make you right?
That's all people are taught these days. Social media, you disagree with what somebody says.
Unfollow.
Yeah, immediately. You get the digital, you break relationship right there. Like, and I don't have to listen to that. I don't have to read it. I can go out there and find stuff that I want to align with my own values.
Well, it goes even past social media, right? We do the same with family.
Oh yeah.
I'll just move away. We'll see each other maybe once a year. And it's like, no, I don't like doing Thanksgiving with them because all they do is argue. But we easily cut those things out. And I've definitely been convicted about like my family that lives in California because they're very different belief-wise. My uncle's a punk rocker who never grew out of the punk rock phase. And it's a
I want to meet that guy.
and it's very difficult to do relationships. So it's easier just to not hate instead of valuing him for who he actually is. Then you just affirm the lies of the enemy that he walks in. And self-righteousness could be there.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. I don't know. I was talking about this the other day. I don't know if I was talking to somebody here, then just listen to it again. I think I might have been talking to Chrissy, actually. There's, and maybe it was me and you. Anyway, whatever. Kind going to say it anyway. There's this common language that gets thrown out, especially among believers, where the argument is, well, this is where God has me right now. That is foundationally wrong and false. The real answer, the real position is this is where God has me. Because the second you say right now, that means I'm looking for anything somewhere else. Show me something that can cause me to flee. Something that can pull me into whatever. We're always looking for that thing. And I hear it a lot, actually. And it's I understand what's being communicated. But it runs with the assumption that, yeah, for right now, this might be where I'm supposed to be. But I have a feeling there's something greater somewhere else. There's something more spectacular. Probably have more money. Probably going to have more comfort. Probably going to have all kinds of extra. Probably some more power. Yeah, those are just some upsides of when I go there. But looking for that opportunity to leave. It's like being in marriage and saying, you know what? Yeah, we're married right now. This is just kind of where we're at. But if your mindset is rooted in divorce, if this is what you know to be true, this is how life works, then yeah, this is who I'm married to right now.
What did they say, guys? If you ever want to get in hot water real quick, introduce your wife as your first wife. Like, it's a great way to stir up strife, right? Technically not wrong. Sydney is, in fact, my first wife.
Correct.
But I also don't plan on there being...
Correct. And see, that's the implication of right now means there's change. Now, the argument will inevitably come, well, what if God tells me that I'm supposed to whatever? Okay, Abraham. All right, well, then I guess pack up and go, right?
It's like you warned us, both when we were leaving Colorado and when we were leaving Germany, to not leave until it was time to go. And it's so prevalent in military culture when you hit the point, because it is inevitable. It is part of our job is leaving. And so when you hit that point where I have where I'm going next, the transition has begun, there's a strong temptation to speed run the transition. Break all ties here and just get ready to go.
Yeah, stop hanging out with these people, those people, because, well, we're not going to be hanging out after that. Yeah. So might as well control the disconnect.
You get zero implication of that in Paul's letters. He, fervently wants to go and be with the people that he previously ministered with. Yeah. Reading the beginning and end of any of Paul's letters, he is almost grieved that he's not with them.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. And this last time in Germany, the Lord brought a new family into our church. It was right at the 3-month point. Like, as we were set to depart and leave, the Lord was like, and he opened up the opportunity for, our two families to have just some absolutely incredible spiritual conversation. I mean, I still check in with them, and it was like, I could have hit that point of, it's time to go. And it was tempting. I know this thing is coming. Let's just go. Let's just be there. And the Lord was like, how about you chill? Because you have work to do in these last final days.
It's kind of the same attitude Torah with a lot of the college kids as well. Like, oh, I'm here right now.
Yeah.
What this whole city's been set up for since 1598.
I'm here right now.
You do the trade and then you leave.
Yeah, and we've lived here long enough to watch it, and we've also lived here long enough to watch people that we stayed in touch with. You watch what ends up happening as they transition into other things, and all different types of experiences, to be sure. But the question that's never really asked by any student that comes here is, this where I'm supposed to be? Was I brought to this school to pull me into this community and to this society, into this region? Because if so, then I need to be paying attention. Nobody even begins to consider that. This is a stop-off point. So that spirit rests heavily, even in the minds of people that have lived here 5, 10, 15 years. Gotta go. Looking for any chance I get. See if I can go.
I like the thing that I was working through recently, then you start to backfill assignments.
Yeah.
Fit your own area. Because I was looking at other jobs. Family friend recommended one for me, like a sales executive position at Procter & Gamble.
Executive. Ooh.
I'd be in charge of blah, 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 stuff and things. I'd sell toothpaste. But,
I'll go ahead and mix a Procter & Gamble.
the real thing was just to get me to the place of submitting to ABBA. But when you start going through all the mental commitments of like, okay, if this is what you want me to do, ABBA, like, am I supposed to go? It's like, oh, well, it is my 7th year at ICASA, so clearly completion. I'm done there. And it's my 10th year in Socorro, so clearly 10. And then you start trying to find all the reasons to sit in your own brain space. And you're like, yep, there it is. There's my witnesses.
Yeah.
And in reality, it's like, no, it's not what it was. For me, it was more going up to the mountain and ABBA providing position things to go forward where I am now. But being willing to get there, I think, was what I was supposed to do. But it's very easy, you're just by yourself in your brain, see what you want to see.
Yeah.
Because clearly I'm smart enough to figure it out.
Clearly.
Didn't even get the job offer.
Yeah, let's keep it score. We
Sweet
talked
action.
about that last night. I'm guilty of the same thing. So,
I
Good
followed
combo.
through with the thing that ABBA wanted me to, and got to where I needed to, learning-wise, and then at the end of it, it's like, yeah, I wasn't even the thing anyway.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to get pulled in those other places when you're not.
Like Brian was saying,
Excuse
the
me.
entire state of New Mexico knows that no one stays in Socorro. Like, I tell people that you guys are here. I was like, yeah, they came for 4 years, and 31 years later, we're still here, and everybody's like you leave. Like, people from Silver who are like, why are your parents still in Socorro? And I was like, we live there. Like, I am from there. And they're like, no one is from Socorro. You go there and you leave.
Mexico has that as a whole, though. People like to call it the land of entrapment.
Yeah.
And most people just want to leave New Mexico.
And see, that just makes me think. I look at what happens in the physical, and I try and understand what's actually going on in the spiritual. So if there's a reason that people are trying to bounce out of here, it means because this is a place, there's a stronghold here, number one, and we don't have the manpower, for lack of a better description, to uproot that, because nobody sticks around long enough to fight. Nobody. So I have one observation, and then we'll wrap up. It'll literally take 3 minutes.
Run the laugh, bro. They're demons.
Am I waiting until the top of the minute or what?
Go.
So the coverings of the things, the very thing that kind of Dry was hung up on of why can't they look at this? You know, why can't they get in there? The covering over everything Ark of the Testimony, table of bread, the menorah, the golden altar that's in there, the all the sanctuary utensils, and the bronze altar. So everything except for the bronze altar is covered in blue, a blue cloth, and that represents, if you trace blue as a color, actually we talked about this a while back, there's a counterfeit in Revelation of the scarlet and the purple, that kind of shows up with that woman at the end.
Blue is the Spirit of God, right?
Blue is the holiness. This is heavenlies. This is the Shamayim, the sky. This is what that is. Blue right there, the heavenlies. Covers all of those. The bronze altar, the one where the sacrifice is made, that one's covered in purple. And in addition, the table of showbread is not only covered in blue, but then also covered in a scarlet. And then everything is covered in a fine leather. It's goat skin, porpoise skin. Nobody knows what it actually means other than it's a skin element. And so from the outside, they all look the same. There, you can't see the beauty, you can't see the function, you can't see the depth. It's all covered in skin. Beneath there are these two signs. One is the altar, one is the table of bread and wine. And there is wine there, mind you. So it's called the table of faces, table of bread. And that one's covered in scarlet. So we have two things that are drawing our attention. Actually three, because the bronze laver is not covered at all. So looking at that place of sacrifice, going to the leadership position, it's covered in purple because this is where kings are to lay down their life. They are, before anything else happens, it is the duty of kings to put their life down for the sake of absolutely everybody else. So number one, right out of the gate, and we see the King of Kings did exactly that. The laver is the place of reflection. This does not get covered. This is everybody. Everybody is to see who you really are. Everything else is heavenly in nature, except for the table of bread. It's heavenly and covered in scarlet, covered in the blood. And we see exactly that with the wine and the bread and the elements that Yeshua talks about. So our attention's drawn into those things. I can't remember who I was talking to. Maybe I was talking to Jariah again.
Yeah, we talked for like 3 hours.
Yeah, it could have been all kinds of stuff. The one thing that kind of has been fascinating to me over the years is people love attending Passover. Everybody can identify with everything that's going on, even if they're not like into the feasts or whatever. Then the Passover is at least one that they can lock into, and it's because of exactly these two things: the bread and the wine, the sacrifice and the blood. This is what people can comprehend. I've been perplexed over the years when we have Sukkot, might be us, plus a few, and you're like, but this is the harvest. This is the blue. Why is it we have such a hard time leaving that one, not leaving proper, but transitioning from, yes, the sacrifice, the blood, this is everything for us to take us here. And to get kind of settled into that mode, just been fascinating to me. I haven't really been able to process and understand that well, and I still have really no legs under me at this point, other than we have a separation that we see here, and we have that bridge of the scarlet into the blue that's taken us into these heavenly things.
I think it's a jump, right? Dr. Crabb talks a lot, like his whole thing about relationships is that it's a narrow platform. You can fall on either side unless you're holding on to the Lord. Much of the same thing. When you talk about like sonship a lot, when Sydney moved in with her adopted parents in high school, all of the cereal bowls in the house went missing. And they were later found under Sydney's bed because she had been so, like, the idea of, like, you're just allowed to have food, she wasn't used to that. She went back to her scraping, her surviving, her, I have to keep it hidden. Lori eventually got all of her cereal bowls back. But when you're brought to that place of sonship, of it's not just a sacrifice, like come in and take part of the harvest when all you've known is slavery. I mean, we've all been doing this for over a decade, and we're still not doing it right. Making that jump requires you to leave behind everything else. It's just, even for us that know and can read it in plain language, we still struggle with grasping everything back there. We're still hiding cereal bowls when we have the entire kitchen at our disposal.
Paul specifically talks about this. Like, all right, brothers, let's move on from the milk. We don't need to talk about the spiritual principles, the basic salvation stuff. We need to then move into the harder things and start to wrestle and chew on the meat. I think he's addressing specifically this, like, we have set the foundation. We need to start doing something with the foundation. We need to start building something with this foundation and building a life on that foundation, building something that is used for the Lord, and starting to wrestle in that space. But it is hard to transition from living in the flesh to living in the spirit. That's what this reminds me of now that you mention it. It's like one is blood covered by skin, the other is spirit covered by skin. And this is a transition we see that we're supposed to operate in, putting our flesh to death and now living by the spirit. And I think that's mirroring that of like, we need to put the flesh to death so that we can live by the spirit within us. And that's that transition of maturity as time goes on. That's really fascinating. I hadn't caught the subtext.
Yeah, I think Passover is essentially that. Like, Messiah did everything, died for us. We sing this dying new song, it would have been enough. Yeah, he did more. Passover is like, Sukkot is what you need to do for the ingathering.
It's a fantasy, right? I mean, it's like, what that is that really real kind of thing, or you guys just playing house, having some kind of little Halloween thing over there, or like this is where we're going. The spring feast were to show us when he came the first time, and that's what we definitely keep that memorial so we can see. Yes, look, he did everything, and if he did it here, and then we have this picture over here, then I bet he's going to do it here. So what do we need to be looking for? And I think we're in that window of time now where this is very important.
You brought up a good point a couple weeks ago that the world works in percentages and the kingdom works in
Multiplication, yeah.
and so it part of it, I think there's no we. Where I struggle the most in all of this is, do I trust Abba? Do I trust him that a 10% increase isn't enough? And it doesn't have to be 100. That it has to be more. It has to be at least doubled. Do I trust that he can double it? Because that requires me to truly give up my life. Because if we come around to Sukkot and it has not been at least doubled, something has broken.
That's the whole point. Is
it's normally me.
You plant one tomato seed, you get hundreds of tomatoes with dozens of seeds on the inside that can then be used for propagation. You don't put one tomato seed in the ground and be like, I can't wait to get quarter of a tomato in the fall. Man, we get 25% in 6 months. Woo! We're making big money, which is true, worldly standards.
I mean, look at
But it would be ridiculous kingdom-wise, right? You're like, psh, I get a quarter of a tomato.
Thanksgiving is a great example, right? This was year 9 or 10, and we're seeing from like 30, 40 people to almost 300. Just 10x.
Yeah.
And going from like in that moment, we're standing there looking at this line wrapped around twice, and we're like, well, probably you're gonna have to multiply the food because nobody's eating tonight. Like it's gonna be the first 50 and we're done. And somehow most people got at least some food.
Yeah.
Our entire global monetary system hedges on people's debts and usury to get 13% increase.
13% is big money, Cameron. You can retire comfortably. You making 13%, you can retire a millionaire, my friend.
More than 10%.
Yeah, but just to that point, we saw it in play practically, and rubber meets the road when you're standing there with a few things of food and you have 300 people standing
Yeah.
in front of you.
Yeah, I'm looking at that, I'm like,
No chance.
and the people kept coming in. I'm like,
Yeah. It's like
nobody's bringing more food in.
It's like 5 minutes past the event. I'm like, there's 150